Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Ann Morgan. I'm the chair of the Toronto Police Services Board, and I'd like to welcome you all to this hybrid meeting of the board. I would like to also acknowledge the land that we are on. As we hold this meeting, it's the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. The board also acknowledges that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Are there any declarations under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Thank you. Seeing none, let me proceed. I'll turn it over to Dubi Kanengisser to go over the logistics.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to everyone who has joined us in person, as well as those who have called into this meeting. Please note that this meeting is also being live streamed on the Toronto Police YouTube account and will be available there at the conclusion of this meeting. Joining us in person, we have Chair Ann Morgan, Vice Chair Lisa Kostakis, Member Nick Migliori, Councillor Lily Chang, and Councillor John Burnside. Member Nadine Spencer is held up in traffic, and we're still waiting for Deputy Mayor Amber Morley. We also have members of our board office staff, Chief Demkiw and his command team, members of the service, and of course members of the public. We have individuals who have registered to make deputations, both in person as well as virtually, on our agenda items. And as per our regular meeting process, deputations will be heard prior to the item being discussed and voted on by board members. When it comes time to do a deputation, those who have registered will be called upon and or brought into the meeting. As always, deputants will speak, followed by an opportunity for board members to ask them questions. Since today is the first meeting of 2024, Happy New Year to everyone, and in accordance with Section 28(1) and 2 of the Police Services Act, which provides that the board is required to elect a chair and a vice chair at its very first meeting in each year, the board members will elect a chair for the Toronto Police Services Board, as well as a vice chair. I will now turn the meeting over to Diana Akim, our board administrator, to conduct the elections. There they are. Oh, there they are. Right on time.
Welcome, Happy New Year.
We'll just give it a minute. Thank you. Are we ready to proceed? Okay, thank you. Happy New Year to all of you and your families. As Executive Director Kanengisser said, this is the first meeting of 2024. So in accordance with subsection 28(1) of the Police Services Act, we have to elect the chair at this meeting. So therefore, nominations for the position of chair will now be accepted. May I have a nomination, please?
I'd like to nominate Ann Morgan for chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Kostakis. Vice Chair Lisa Kostakis nominates board member Ann Morgan. May I have a seconder? Thank you. Ms. Morgan, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations for this position for 2024? Seeing none. Nominations for the position of chair are now closed. Vice Chair Lisa Kostakis nominated Board Member Ann Morgan, which was seconded by Board Member Nadine Spencer. Thank you so much for that. Are all in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Seeing none, the nomination carries unanimously. There being only one nomination for the position of chair for the year of 2024, Ms. Morgan is now re-elected chair of the board for this year and until her successor is appointed. Congratulations, Chair Morgan.
Thank you, I think.
The board will now elect the position of vice chair. In accordance with subsection 28(2) of the Police Services Act, the vice chair shall act as the chair if the chair is absent or if the chair's position is vacant. Nominations for the position of vice chair will now be accepted. May I please have a nomination for this position?
I'd like to nominate Lisa Kostakis, please.
Thank you, Chair Morgan. Chair Morgan nominates Board Member Lisa Kostakis for the position of Vice Chair. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. Board Member Nick Migliori seconded this nomination. Does the candidate agree to be nominated?
I do.
Thank you. Are there any further nominations for this position? None. Hearing none, nominations for the position of Vice Chair will now be closed. Chair Morgan nominated Board Member Lisa Kostakis, which was seconded by Board Member Nick Migliori. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you. Therefore, the nomination carries unanimously. There being only one nomination for the position of Vice Chair, Board Member Lisa Kostakis has been re-elected for the position of Vice Chair of the Board for the year 2024 and until her successor is appointed. Congratulations, Vice Chair Kostakis.
Thank you.
And thank you all for participating.
Thank you. At this time, I propose to go through the agenda items, the ones that we can approve, and then I will return afterwards for a few introductory comments, and then we will do the Chief's verbal update. And thank you, Chief, for indulging me. So starting with agenda number 2, because we have completed the election, we will hold that matter down. It's regarding the minutes of the last meeting because we have deputations. Item number 3, again, is a report from Dr. Kanengisser as it relates to artificial intelligence. It's our board policy, and there are a number of folks who will be attending to give depositions, so we'll hold that matter down. Item number 4, at this point, I will need a motion. It is a report from Chief Demkiw as it relates to the Memorandum of Understanding of the MCIT team and the partnership with our local hospitals. After receiving information from John Reed, the TPA and the TPS are still reviewing this. There are some procedural elements that still have to be ironed out. So I wonder if I could have a motion so that we can adjourn this to the next board meeting, which is March 18th, 2024. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Morley. A seconder. Thank you, Board Member Spencer. All in favor? And so it'll be adjourned to March 18th, 2024. Thank you. The next item is item number 5. It's a report from Chief Demkiw as it relates to a receipt of a donation. We have a deputation to hold down. Next item is item number 6. It's a report from Chief Demkiw as it relates to the special constable appointments. January 2024. May I have a motion to approve that report? Thank you, Vice Chair Kostakis, the seconder. Thank you, Board Member Migliore. All in favor? Thank you. Doesn't appear any opposed. Next item is item number 7 as it relates to a report from Dr. Kanengisser to a City Council decision regarding Vision Zero safety initiatives. We have a board report. Hold that matter down. Item number 8, again, is again a report from Dr. Kanengisser as it relates to the City Council decision and the board direction on the hate speech and other hate activities, and we do have deputations on that. Next item is item number 9. It's the Chief Investigative reports. It's 9-1 through to 9-9. And we have a number of deputations on that, so we'll hold it down. Item number 10 is a report. It's an update requesting the request to extend the term of the 911 crisis call division pilot. Can I have a motion to receive this report? Deputy Mayor Morley, seconded by Board Member Migliore. All in favor? Thank you. And then perhaps go back and just before the chief gives his update, I just wanted to make a few comments. The board learned just before Christmas of the tragic passing of the police horse, Picard, and he died during surgery from serious complications. And he was given his name in memory of a late Toronto police constable, by the late Toronto police constable, PC Sam Sun, who was a Trekkie, of course, a big Star Trek fan, who passed away in 2018. So it's kind of a double whammy in, you know, we're mourning the loss of both his original, his mentor and the person he's named after, and also Picard. By all accounts, Picard was a special, kind soul, a very gentle horse, and was, from all reports, exceptional at his job. So we would like, as the board members, to extend our sincere condolences to the mounted unit, in particular, all the riders who rode Picard to the many ceremonial functions and also to other work functions as well. And I know, Chief Demkiw, I'll turn it over to you to say a few words as it relates to Picard.
Let me just clarify, Chair, would you like my monthly update in totality at this point, or just about Picard? Yeah.
Sorry, Chief. I thought you might want to make a few words, and then, yes, I will turn it over to you to do the update.
In totality?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, everyone. Most of my update today will be dedicated to Project Resolute. However, there are other significant items that I'd like to speak to. And Chair, just as you mentioned, on December 20th, 2023, we lost a member of our police family when police service horse Picard passed away due to serious complications during surgery. You'll see an image of Picard on the screen now. Picard was an 8-year-old Clydesdale who joined the mounted unit in March of 2019. He was donated by the family of the late Constable Sam Sun, badge 9709. Who passed away in 2018. Constable Sun's family had requested that a horse be named Picard. As you noted, Chair, Sam had an affinity with Star Trek. Picard has been described as calm, kind, and brave. He was a valued member of our police family, and on behalf of the command team, I extend our heartfelt condolences to our members at the mounted unit, and I thank the Sun family for their support. Our city continues to experience unprecedented and increasing tensions due to geopolitical unrest in the Middle East. It has been 96 days since the horrific events of October 7th. The crisis in the Middle East continues to have a devastating impact on people around the world, and here at home. As a result, Project Resolute remains a large-scale operation requiring an all-of-service approach. As tensions continue to escalate, we persist in our unwavering commitment to restore the sense of safety and security for our Torontonians while upholding the constitutionally protected right to freedom of expression and peaceful assembly. This balance requires a delicate and thoughtful approach to navigating situations where multiple factors or interests need to be managed carefully. Freedom of expression, even when it is experienced as unpopular, offensive, or disturbing, is nevertheless protected. This freedom ends, however, when it becomes criminal and manifests as such things as threats, assaults, mischief, or, as we saw at a Jewish-owned business in North York last week, an arson. The violence and acts of hate, including this recent arson, have inflicted great harm on our communities. The Hate Crime Unit is leading the investigation into the recent targeted attack at the deli, and with the full attention of the Toronto Police Service, every effort will be made to bring those responsible to justice. The service has continued daily community engagement with members and leaders from the Jewish and Muslim communities. I met with members of our Jewish Consultative Committee on Monday evening of this week, and last Friday I visited the command post at the Imdadul Islamic Center and spoke with the congregation at the mosque. Yesterday, I met with the Prime Minister of Canada to discuss hate crime and community concerns about recent events in Toronto. We continue to deploy 2 command posts in the Bathurst and Lawrence community as part of our effort to be where our community needs us the most, and to provide the community with easier access to police to report acts of hate and other incidents of concern. Since the early days following October 7th, the service has maintained a strong presence in Jewish neighborhoods. We have deployed dozens of officers on a daily basis to ensure the safety and security of Jewish institutions, including schools and synagogues and Jewish businesses. These resources will remain in place for the foreseeable future. Let me be clear and unequivocal. Our commitment to keeping our city's Jewish community safe is unwavering. We are doing everything we can in the locations that have been targeted for demonstrations to uphold and enforce the law. We remain committed to doing everything we can to ensure all communities are safe from the acts of hatred and violence. The Major Incident Command Center continues to oversee citywide operations and ensure effective handling and coordination of Project Resolute, including demonstrations and protests. Our officers have worked tirelessly to manage 308 demonstrations since October 7th. We are unique as a police service in many ways. This is one of them. The number of demonstrations that we have managed over the past 3 months is exponentially more than any other city has experienced in Canada. We have attended 60 more demonstrations since I reported these numbers to you, board members, 3 weeks ago. These events, which have been both planned and unplanned, have anywhere from several dozen to more than 25,000 people. We understand the disruption and concern that many of these demonstrations have caused. As I've stated previously, demonstrations by their very nature are dynamic situations that sometimes present a risk to public safety. This poses a challenge as we endeavor to strike the right balance between ensuring public safety and upholding the right to free speech. Recently, there's been a shift in the intensity and overall atmosphere of some of the demonstrations and have resulted in significant public safety concerns. As a measure to enhance the service's ability to effectively manage the fluidity and unpredictability of the demonstrations we have encountered, the Public Safety Response Team is being redeployed to the exclusive control of the area commander responsible for Project Resolute. This rapid response capability and the skill sets that our public safety response team officers have will provide an added measure of support to our community response units, public order units, and divisional officers that have thus far been managing the many demonstrations across the city. This means the same teams will be responding to the protests and demonstrations, which will ensure that despite the increasingly challenging nature of these events, our response will be consistent within and across demonstrations while being dictated by the situation on the ground. In recent weeks, we have encountered an increasing number of demonstrations on Highway 401 overpasses. The choice of some groups to protest and counter-protest on overpasses such as the Avenue Road overpass pose unique challenges and safety concerns for the service, particularly when protesters and counter-protesters want to occupy the same space, leading to the potential for physical confrontation. While the demonstrations in recent weeks have increased in intensity, it should be noted that the volatile protests that we have experienced make up a small portion of the staggering 308 demonstrations we have managed since October 7th. Again, a number that is exponentially unrivaled and unmatched by any city in this country. We recognize that the demonstrations on overpasses have been an ongoing challenge and a source of concern and contention for the surrounding communities, demonstrators, and of course police, given the potentially grave safety risks to our members, the public, and the drivers on the roadways below. Our efforts to identify criminal offenses, investigate those who perpetuate crimes of any kind, and lay charges wherever possible remains a priority for our service. Moving forward, protests, demonstrations, or congregation of individuals on the Avenue Road overpass will not be permitted. People can expect to be arrested if necessary. Furthermore, activities that take place on the Avenue Road overpass and the surrounding areas will be investigated with a criminal lens. Beyond a criminal charge of mischief, we know that this behavior around the bridge has led to feelings of insecurity and intimidation for the Jewish community. For very good reason, community members in this area of the city are feeling intimidated by the actions of the demonstrators who have targeted this bridge that is, in fact, in the heart of a large Jewish community. This past Saturday, I ordered the command to conduct a review of the operational command and control of that day's operations on the Avenue Road Bridge to identify areas of improvement, in part to ensure that our frontline officers are supported as they do this challenging work in difficult circumstances. I would like to extend my acknowledgement and thanks to all members, sworn and civilian, who support our all-of-service operational response to Project Resolute. Members of the board, I want you to hear this first from me because of the importance of an arrest that has been made this past Sunday, January 7th, during a large demonstration that took place in our city. There will be a news release distributed in the next few minutes, which will contain some of the details that I'm about to share with you all now. This past Sunday, it's alleged that one of the persons involved in a demonstration marched from the area of Front Street and Bay Street to the area of Queen Street West and Bay Street while displaying a flag that is prescribed to a terrorist organization which is currently listed as a terrorist entity by Public Safety Canada. Our members observed this act and arrested the accused party. Maged Sameh Hilal Al-Khalal, 41 years, of Toronto, has been charged with public incitement of hatred. This investigation is being treated as a suspected hate-motivated offense. Hate propaganda charges such as public incitement of hatred are unique and complex, as the law requires a very high threshold to lay charges under these provisions. This is an unprecedented charge. The Toronto Police Service Hate Crime Unit will continue to work closely with the Ministry of the Attorney General's Office in all hate-related matters, including this case. Madam Chair, While I would very much like to show the board and those watching online today the terrorist symbolism that resulted in the arrest I just spoke about, I will not be complicit in providing a platform to both acknowledge or promote the hateful ideology that accompanies terrorists or terrorist activity. I would now like to provide some statistics that will shed some light on the concerning hate crime trends taking place in our city. From January to September 2023, the service averaged 47 hate crime-related calls for service each month. From October to December 2023, that average increased to 190 hate-related calls each month. There is some good news in these statistics, though, because hate crime calls for service in December showed a 48% decrease when compared to November. Since October 7, 2023, there have been 54 arrests and 117 resulting charges that relate to hate crime occurrences. Of the 117 charges laid, the most common charges were the following: mischief-related, 24% of the charges laid; assault-related, 19% of the charges laid; and uttering threats were 15% of the charges laid. Anti-Semitism continues to account for more reported hate crimes than any other category. Compared to 2012, reports of anti-Semitic hate crime went up 103%. Anti-Semitic hate crimes make up 37% of all hate crimes reported in the city. Since October 7th to date, anti-Semitism incidents are up 168% from the same time period last year. Also troubling is the 65% increase in LGBTQ2S+ hate crimes reported in 2023, the second highest category, and the increase of 23 more anti-Muslim, anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab reported compared to the 12 reported the year prior, with the majority of them coming to our attention after October 7th. We continue to see a spike in hate-related graffiti. Last month, I reported that on November 8th, we established a new hate graffiti web form available for the public to access 24/7. To date, we have received 145 web submissions from people using the hate graffiti web form. I will say this once again, and as many times as necessary: violence and hate will not be tolerated. The service in our hate crime unit will continue to pursue incidents of hate-motivated behavior aggressively. We'll continue to stand with our communities as long as we need, as we maintain our increased presence for the safety and comfort of all. Members of the board, I can tell you that when I visit divisions and units in my duties across the city, there is an ever-present concern for the state of the service's 2024 budget. With yesterday's news, I can tell you that this concern has reached a new level. As we know, the city wants to cut $12.6 million from the budget of our board, that our board here approved. As I've said, costs cannot be further reduced without taking unacceptable risks. Otherwise, the service will have no prospect of delivering adequate and effective policing services as required in legislation. Despite this new pressure put on our members, they continue to do phenomenal work during these unprecedented times, even as our resources are strained more than ever. I once again want to thank our members for their commitment to keeping our community safe and for the extraordinary work they do each and every day, often under very challenging and increasingly volatile circumstances. In closing, I want to reiterate that we will be with our communities for as long as it takes to return the sense of safety and security that people deserve in our city. I would also like to take this opportunity to wish all members of the service, their families, along with members of our board and your families, and everyone who lives, works, plays, and prays in our great city, Toronto, a happy and healthy 2024. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chief, I wonder if this time before you update us on various areas that I may have a few words as well. Thank you. As the chief has just articulated, the board is very, very much aware that our service members have been facing an increasingly complex situation, but they're doing it with care, expertise, compassion, and resolution. They're diligently trying to escalate very tense situations. Meanwhile, they're trying to enforce the law and protecting the safety and all rights of communities. Some of these situations include, as Chief Demkiw alluded to, the policing the Middle East crisis events. We've seen a record number of shootings and even and increasingly more brazen and violent carjackings. For this, the board thanks these officers who are being drawn in so many different directions. Apologize. These substantial efforts, as Chief Demkiw say, come at a significant cost, operational and financial. Last month, the board approved a budget request that was fiscally responsible while we address the real and urgent needs of the service. As we enter the city's budget cycle, I'd like to emphasize that the changes requested to the present budget will inevitably result in reductions to our service levels and pose a significant risk to our communities. I also want to say that when I'm emphasizing this, this is not just comments for consideration. This is a legal mandate, and I'd like to read from Section 4 of the Police Services Act. Section 4.1, which relates to municipalities, which we are. Every municipality to which this subsection applies shall provide adequate and effective policing services in accordance with its needs. Subsection 2 directs the police and, of course, the oversight of the board, which must facilitate the police doing adequate and effective police services, must include, at a minimum, all of the following police services. Number 1, crime prevention. Number 2, law enforcement. Number 3, assistance to victims of crimes. Number 4, public order maintenance. And number 5, emergency response. So I just want to, again, as chair of the board on behalf of the board, is that I echo the chief's comments, and I am very concerned about the significant risk to our communities that not only Toronto Police Services is mandated, but the board has oversight to deliver those services. So thank you. Chief, before, would you like to say a few words about Picard's passing, and then we'll have a motion to approve your update? Okay. 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 All right. Can I have a motion to receive Chief Demkiw's update? Lisa, Nick, all in favor? Thank you. The next, we have a deputation on item number 2, which was the confirmation of the minutes from the last meeting, which was December 19th, 2023. Derek, you. Thank you. Happy New Year. Welcome.
I just want to say by me speaking at this meeting, this shall not be deemed to be in any way my consent expressed or implied in doing so as fraud. God bless His Majesty the King, and long live His Majesty the King. And if I've ever led any of you to believe in any way that I am an individual as identified by any of your fancy government AI machine computer, then that would be a mistake, and that I ask all of you to please forgive me. So in these minutes, it mentions about Deputy Mayor Morley asked a question, and Councillor Cheng asked a question. And you know what? I was kind of feeling bad for Councillor Burnside, because I thought, he just fucked out. Because it's a draft so far, right? Because I was wondering if Diana could put in something that Councillor Burnside said at the last meeting in the minutes, which I posted on my Facebook page, as Councillor John Burnside explains how the City of Toronto wastes the public's money while acting like they're doing us a favor, and says how the city plays a lot of shell games, because it just so happens I was down at Budget Committee yesterday. I don't know if Councillor Cheng and Deputy Mayor Morley remember seeing and hearing me there. But I also subtly explained to them at the end that you can't take a big chunk of your budget as revenue and then stash it into your reserves and then lie to the public that you suddenly have a deficit. So actually, I'm going to go a little off script here. While he's here, Superintendent Matt Moyer has decided to grace us with his presence today. I wanted to remind everyone that when Mark Saunders first became chief, there was a town hall held at the North Toronto High School in the auditorium, where he's rolling his eyes. Then Staff Sergeant Matt Moyer was the MC for this event. And it turns out that Councillor Burnside was actually sitting right behind me, in the row behind me. And this was the first time I spoke to Chief Saunders. And I told him the same story I told Jim Hart, and well, it's your office now, here. The reason why I started coming to these meetings. The City of Toronto told me they were going to take my father to court over a bylaw fine. And I looked at them and I'm like, well, you know, a Crown Prosecution Service lawyer ended up defending me when I was arrested at the Northern District Library in front of Justice of the Peace Kevin Madigan. So I'm like, I'm not worried about going to court. So they said, if your father doesn't pay the fine, it's only going to go to court. So we're like, yeah, that's why I'm here. Like, when and where? We're kind of waiting, chop, chop. Let's get on with this. What ended up happening instead, as I told Mark Saunders, they put the fine on my father's property tax bill. So it's like, we can't, my father now can't pay the property tax without automatically paying the fine they told us they're going to take us to court over. So my father's like, well, I'm telling I feel like a bit of an idiot at the time, because they keep telling my father, well, they can't obviously do this. They have to take us to court. What they ended up doing was sending my father a letter in the end regarding power of sale, putting a lien on the house. Like, they're getting ready to steal my father's house. And what, I don't know if he remembers this, what Mark Saunders told me after at the end of this was basically, hey, in the future, you feel like someone at the City of Toronto is defrauding you or anyone in your family, you go down to 53 Division and you make a complaint. We won't have a problem charging anyone down at the City of Toronto with a fraud or breach of trust. And I just wanted Chief Demkiw to know this, because at some point I would like that. I think people would like to hear that from him, the same message. We won't play favorites. We know they kind of got us a bit of the short tails, like you were saying. They're trying to decrease the budget increase that they're looking for. But I mean, that's something I'd like to hear from Chief Demkiw in the future. And also in the minutes, it also mentions, in response to questions raised by the deputant, Chief Information Officer Colin Stairs provided information regarding the increase in costs. Chief Administrative Officer Savina Dhaliwal answered questions raised by the deputant and advised that the amount provided by the grant money will be fully spent in just 28 seconds. But I just want to thank you for continuing on what Jim Hart started, because, you know, people, just me and Miguel really is here, but people don't realize the whole mood of this place has really substantially chilled down, and people who come here aren't nearly as angry as they used to when you guys, you know, for simply answering our questions. I think, and I'd like the councillors here to go down at City Hall and point that out, that, you know, people are a lot less angry when they simply get their questions answered.
Thank you very much, Derek, for the kind remarks.
And thank you for clapping for me, Miguel.
May I have a motion to receive the confirmation of the minutes? Lisa, the seconder, Nick, thank you. All in favor. Moving on to item number 3, it is a report from Dr. Kanengisser as it relates to the update on the board policy on artificial intelligence. Before I go to the actual deputants who will be speaking. I would just like to thank, there were two written deputations. One is from Patricia Cosine. Patricia Cosine is the commissioner from the Information and Privacy Commission of Ontario. The second was Commissioner Patricia DeGuire, and she's the Chief Commissioner from the Ontario Human Rights Commission. So I believe our first deputant will be Mr. Chris Langenfeld, and I believe he's attending virtually. Mr. Langenfeld?
Yes, good morning, Chair. Thank you. So on this issue, I'm just sharing my screen here. I note basically you're striking out or proposing here to strike out from the AI technology definition items which have required a privacy impact assessment, which I think is fine based on the report's statement that of the, I believe it was 25 that you looked at, they weren't looked at, or none of them had any implications that would require consideration under the AI policy. However, my concern is that where new technology is purchased, where it might not meet the slightly reduced definition of AI technology that that data sets are being evaluated by algorithms, that at the time of purchase, there should still be some consideration as to whether or not there is an implication under the AI technology umbrella here under this policy, that whether items that nonetheless require a privacy impact assessment should be considered, whether they should also be listed under this AI technology policy. And I would suggest that those 25 other technologies should be documented somewhere, and additions to that should be documented so that the public can actually look at what technologies are being used and whether or not the public has any concerns, regardless of whether the service or board might have concerns. Moving on to the definitions here, or the list of technologies that are being tested and piloted. There's two listed here. On the second one here, the BriefCam software, which is used to review large amounts of video technology or video evidence. I'll just read here what I've got on the text on your screen here. Presumably, this technology could be used to scan video captured from numerous TPS cameras around the city and other government or private camera systems. So will the BriefCam system, combined with cameras that capture images of the public, enable the TPS to track individuals' movements? My concern, obviously, being that we could have software basically able to follow people moving around with the ubiquitous cameras that we have in the city. If the technology is capable of that, then what are the requirements for its use in that capacity? Would such use be required to be associated with an open file or investigation? And is there a record kept of the relevant case reference numbers in that case? And then is a search warrant required to track individuals using AI technology and to follow them? And are records kept of who, if anybody, is tracked, when and why they're tracked, and by whom they're being tracked? Of course, my concern is we've heard situations in the past where, for example, an officer might be tracking a former person that they were romantically involved in, that they might be looking into their private information. And so obviously there is potential even in a situation like that where this technology could theoretically be abused. And so I'm concerned just of, is there some kind of system where we'll have a record to be able to track that actually happened and know that it happened, so that that could be followed up with if anything does go wrong. Similarly to tracking individuals, could this system be used to track a vehicle, for example, without any kind of warrants or anything like that? Or could it be used to track, for example, an inanimate object like a briefcase, and in so doing actually be tracking the individual carrying it And again, my concern is about an expansion of this where we basically could have a combination of cameras and AI capable of tracking individuals and following them wherever they go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Langenfeld, and you've raised some really good questions and really good concerns, and these are obviously questions where the board policy is ever evolving as technology evolves and the law evolves as it relates. But I'll turn it over to Dr. Kanengisser if he's got any additional comments. But thank you for your thoughtful, comments as it relates to the things that we will be looking at in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Langenfeld. Your point on the change, the missing change from the policy is absolutely correct. I missed that in my review. So we'll move forward with making that change as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next deputant is Maria Amchu-Chastigi. I believe she'll be appearing virtually.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you see me?
We can't see you. We can hear you very well.
Okay. I didn't. I'm not used to. And,
Please go ahead. We can see you.
okay. So I will be sharing my screen. Sorry, I'm just figuring this out. So my name is Maria Amchu-Chastigi. Today I will begin by introducing myself. Then I will briefly compare the level of transparency that TPS has demonstrated with respect to its use of surveillance technologies with that of other major police forces in North America. And I will conclude with my recommendations. So I'm a PhD student in Science and Technology Studies at York University. I am a historian of technology, and I am specifically a historian of computing. As part of my research, I have written about IBM SPSS Modeler, a big data analytics tool that is used by many police forces around the world. I have taught courses on big data analytics at the University of Guelph Humber and at Sheridan College. And I am a seasoned IT consultant, and I have consulted for numerous government clients, including the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs. As part of my government IT consulting engagements, I have conducted numerous PIAs, or privacy impact assessments. So I've created this chart based on data provided by the Electronic Frontier Foundation, or the EFF. It's an American nonprofit, and it gathered this data as part of its Atlas of Surveillance project. So as you can see from this chart, when it comes to disclosing its use of surveillance technologies, TPS is much, much less transparent than the police forces for North American cities of comparable size. So Chicago, for example, which has a smaller population than Toronto, disclosed about 180-ish surveillance technologies, whereas Toronto, and I'm going based on the technologies that were in the draft AI policy, has disclosed 5. So, and I just want to provide an example of a technology that that TPS is likely using, but which it has not disclosed. So TPS almost certainly uses a specialized tool to perform targeted surveillance of social media, and TPS does not disclose this. An example of such a tool is Palantir, is made by Palantir. I don't know for a fact if TPS uses Palantir or not, but it almost certainly uses such a tool. So my first recommendation is to keep the original wording with respect to the privacy impact assessments. So most of the harms listed in the draft AI policy, from violation of the right to freedom of expression to the violation of the right to dignity, arise when privacy is violated. Removing this wording will enable TPS to avoid being held accountable for its use of these technologies, even though these technologies are potentially harmful to privacy. Indeed, it seems certain that TPS wishes to remove this wording precisely in order to avoid transparency. My second recommendation is to emphasize surveillance and not specific AI algorithms. Now, as you know, technology evolves very quickly, and whatever algorithms are used now may not be used 6 months from now or 2 years from now. Even the current definition of AI, it really focuses on specific types of algorithms, specifically natural language processing and neural networks. Even if we just base, if we're going to use a definition based on algorithms, that list is too narrow. For example, GAN discriminators, the algorithms used to create deepfake images are not included. And they often use neural networks, but not necessarily. It has been argued that police forces could use deepfake AI to fabricate evidence. So it is important that, that this type of AI be tracked. And the other point I want to make is that for critics of policing practices, the main concern about these technologies is not their use of a given algorithm, but the fact that these technologies are used for surveillance, including mass surveillance and targeted surveillance. And indeed, it is for this very reason that the Electronic Frontier Foundation has created a database of surveillance technologies used by law enforcement, not AI technologies. As such, the draft policy on AI should pivot to become a policy on technologies of surveillance. And my final recommendation is to include women in the definition of vulnerable communities. Women should be included, partly because TPS has such a poor track record on gender. TPS disbelieves most women who report that they are victims of sexual crimes. Even within its own ranks, TPS mistreats female police officers who report that they are victims of sexual harassment. And women should also be included as they are disproportionately affected by AI. One of the most harmful uses of AI is the creation of deepfake images. Currently, over 96% of deepfake images consist of pornographic images, and virtually all of these depict women. As such, women are disproportionately harmed by deepfake AI technology. So to sum up, my recommendations are as follows. First of all, keep the original wording with respect to privacy impact assessments. And the result will be that this will enable TPS to be held accountable for all technologies that have the potential to harm privacy. My second recommendation is to emphasize surveillance and not specific AI algorithms. And this will enable TPS to be as transparent as police forces south of the border and to adhere to international norms of transparency. And my final recommendation is to include women in the definition of vulnerable communities in the AI policy. This will enable TPS to protect women from the harms caused by AI and surveillance. And I've included my contact info below.
Thank you, Ms. Emma Chastigi. I was wondering, were there any comments from Deputy Stairs as related particularly to our disclosure of our technologies, or any other comments you wish to make or questions?
Certainly. I'll take the deputy's points one at a time. In response to Chris Langefeld, the separation that we have around this policy and the work that's being done under it is AI specific. So we do PIAs on all of our technology purchases that require a PIA, and that would be anything that has a privacy impact in the organization. It doesn't fall under this policy. The history of this policy is as a response to Clearview AI and inappropriate uses of that technology. And also the use of this technology is often unpredictable. Right, so we come up with new and innovative ways to use AIs, and that creates innovation that is outpacing legislation or guidance. So we have to create the internal guidance in the vacuum of legislatures or governance bodies, and that's where this policy sits. exactly to make visible the AI technologies that we have. We've had discussions with the RCMP and their policies and practices. There is a discussion around the list of transparencies to include all technologies that we use. I can tell you absolutely that we don't have 300 technologies, just all technologies in the organization. We're not as well funded as some of these large US bodies, and so we don't have the advanced technologies that they do. We do not use SPSS. We do not use Palantir. We don't have those systems, and I can state that unequivocally. In terms of running the PIAs, that is a discussion that we can have and we can have with the board. This policy is strictly constrained to AIs and is designed to make visible what's happening in that innovative space. With respect to BriefCam, BriefCam is a technology, think of it as a search engine for video. So it does not operate in real time. It operates off of stored video. So what you do is you have an investigation. Some crime occurs, and our officers go out and canvass for video. They will go to cameras that may have been recording around and gather information on what's been happening. That creates a massive amount of review time. And what BriefCam does is allows you to search through that. Okay, I saw this guy in the orange hoodie on this corner. Is he in any of the rest of the video? I'm going to search for that. And it just pings and locates the areas in those videos that the investigator would go see. So as such, it doesn't have any of these real-time more spy novel kind of capabilities that we're talking about of tracing people in real time. The technology may evolve towards that at some point in the future, but that would, under our AI policy, need to be serviced and need to go through consultations and be approved by the board. Basically what it does is it's a search engine for video. Okay. In terms of the surveillance versus AI tech, again, this policy has been focused on AI. There are certainly questions about what surveillance technologies exist, and that is an ongoing conversation around what we can disclose without giving away technologies and methods that would help people evade justice. The deepfakes are a challenge. We do not have any deepfake technology that we use in the service. Deepfakes are an emerging threat, both as the deputant described in criminal use and in pornography, but also in frauds. So we're having people deepfaking voice and calls and creating frauds against individuals. And all of those are emerging threats and areas of crime which we are alive to. So I think I'm covering most of the points in a succinct amount of time, but that is where we are.
Thank you very much, Deputy Stairs, and I hope that answered some of your questions, and I appreciate you coming out, Dr. Ramachis.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
There's a comment made by the deputant. I do want an opportunity for the CAO to comment on. We certainly acknowledge the burden of history that exists within this organization as it relates to members of our service and some of their experiences. In fact, on December 19th last year, I specifically made my first priority to build trust in and within the Toronto Police Service, to acknowledge our command prioritization of building trust within the service, recognizing the burden of that history. But I think it warrants comment that the CAO can advise on some of the work that's happened for the awareness of the deputant.
So I think, as the Chief mentioned, in the recent years, certainly in the last 3 to 5 years with new command and new management, you have seen the hallway conversations at the service legitimately and genuinely change. And we have put money and sort of resources behind that change. So every single frontline supervisor, sworn and civilian, have to take a full day mandatory sexual harassment training that is delivered through a third-party workplace firm. That is unlike any other service in the country. We have, and the other area that I think everyone knows is we've been focusing a lot on our HR practices. And through that focus, we have certainly increased the diversity of our workforce, in particular in the leadership ranks. So, you know, the deputy and myself are examples of that, but that actually extends, cascades through all the various senior officer ranks where almost 50% of our leaders are actually female. On the civilian side, even outside of the senior officer contingent, 50% of even our first line leaders are female. And so this is an area we continue to focus on. We continue to hire, promote, provide opportunities, training, and advance in a organic, through process reform, through breaking down barriers, through good mentorship sort of manner in order to break any historical challenges and the cycles around that, to make sure the right sort of policies and decisions are in place that allow women to truly thrive and grow and have a very rewarding career in the service. You know, and then specifically as it relates to workplace harassment, we have undergone and continue to go through true investigative reform. We have opened up the doors and avenues in terms of reporting any such incidences, as well as through our EIHR, Equity, Inclusion, and Human Rights area, in order to reduce the barriers of reporting, to make sure it's not seen as sort of a daunting kind of police process, to take more of an HR workplace approach towards what are effectively workplace matters. So these are just a few of some of the notable things that we've done in the last few years, but happy at a future date to provide a more thorough, comprehensive update.
Thank you, Deputy Dollywell. And at this point, that completes the deputations on item 3. May I have a motion to approve? Oh, Councillor Chang, please go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm just wondering, we have a written deputation from the Privacy Commissioner of Ontario about an upcoming report on recognition and mugshot database guidance for police that will be published soon. Is my oh, okay.
We just speak a bit closer and
sure.
then it picks it up.
Yeah, sorry. So the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, Patricia Kassem, wrote a written deputation that's talking about an upcoming policy that they are publishing on facial recognition and mugshot database. And I think the letter is just indicating hope that we would either delay our firming up our policy, or perhaps wondering, you know, would we consider amending this current policy as that paper is published. I know that she did share some of that documentation with us earlier, but has that been folded in already, or are we going to amend as that is published?
Sure. So I can address that. I do sit on the strategic advisory. Whoops. There we go. I do sit on the strategic advisory group for the IPC on next generation policing. So the conversation with the IPC around this documentation has been ongoing. They have consulted with us. The ask to review, this is sort of different things coming out at different times. The AI policy sort of sits above and covers all forms of AI, including facial recognition, but anything that might emerge or might be used in totality that uses AI methods. So basically data training algorithms, data-trained algorithms. And so that's as a catch-all. But there's nothing in the AI policy that precludes us from reviewing and adopting guidance from the IPC. It is not a closed door in any way, shape, or form. There is an audit which our team internally is doing on practices around the facial recognition, and that will continue the guidance and governance on that, and we'll of course review the IPC's direction as it comes out.
Thank you. Another question I have is, I know that in Australia, they removed security cameras because of their country of origin. And in our policy, Is there also something about tracking where all the chips are made? Because there is that when we're doing surveillance, I think there's a vulnerability and concern about where the manufacturing of the technology is happening.
We do not have a policy per se about the sourcing of systems, but it is a consideration. We don't, for example, to my knowledge, have any Huawei equipment, camera systems, etc. And for those who aren't aware of the issue, the concern is that that governments that would have a hostile interest would create backdoors in those systems to be able to access them. So that is a security concern and something that we would take into consideration when we're looking at new technologies. It would come more under the cybersecurity banner.
Okay, and my last question was regarding what the deputant was saying about the impact on women, in particular deepfake technology. And I think this policy covers technology we're implementing, but then there's also how we're responding to technology that's being implemented outside of so in order to track this emerging technology, do we then need to use corresponding technology? Like, do we need some type of deep fake capability in order to monitor deep fake technology use?
So we do need to look to how we detect deepfaked images. We expect that at some point there'll be evidence which is manufactured not by the police but by criminals trying to escape justice to give themselves alibis, etc., using deepfake technology, and we will need to analyze and refute that technology and build a level of expertise around that. This is going to be an arms race. It already is an arms race, and so resourcing for those capabilities is something that we will need to look to, and that will be building out our cyber capability. We call it C3.
And I think what the deputant was asking is in this policy, is there room to create a certain acknowledgement of the vulnerability of women with regard to how AI is implemented?
So I see this policy as internally focused, and it is focused on transparency within the service. So is the service doing anything that is not visible to the board and is not in the light of day? So we're trying to add transparency to the service and how we deal with AI. I do think that that is a concern, but I'm just not sure it belongs in this policy. I think we need to have a conversation more broadly about AI and how it is being used by a criminal element to victimize people.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Thank you. We have a motion to approve. Board Member Spencer, second by Board Member Migliore. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to the next item, which is item number 5, which is a report by Chief Demkiw dated December 19, 2023, receipt of a donation. And we have a deputation from Miguel.
Maybe we do need
Happy New Year.
(2024). So if you got a problem, I want to make sure. Okay, back to the dentures. This is what you get when you are an ODSP. Implants is a dream. Anyway, so we're here to talk about a horse. In July, in the summer of 2021, my former girlfriend, Barbara, and we were at the Lamport Stadium in support of those people living in encampments and were being evicted violently by Toronto police. As you know, there are videos out there. There were horses that were commanded to break through the crowd. And my girlfriend happens to have cancer, stage 4 at the time. And because of the horses charging towards the crowd, she got pushed, trampled, and landed on the tree where she had a concussion. I wonder if the donor of the horses, or the horse, because this is the second horse, by the way, he's donating. I wonder if he's aware of the treatment that the horses are being put to the risk of the animals. Has he considered that the horses are not just for a photograph opportunity with children and old people? That is not what we're doing with the horses. The horses are used to break through protesters who are peacefully demanding changes to social justice issues like in the encampment. We were there peacefully, but the police attacked us, and my girlfriend got pinned down by the horses. And also in Ottawa, on the first day of the police evictions of the city of Ottawa, a horse trampled an Indigenous woman who happened to be on a scooter, and the horse happens to be from this city. And the CIU, of course, will always say, nothing is wrong, the horse didn't do nothing, the owners, nothing wrong, blah, blah, blah. So I want to end that bad history of the Toronto police with the horses. Those animals are part of the bad colonial system of this country, that they use it on the plains to hunt down Indians escaping from reservations. That is the root of the RCMP. Their goal was to put Indians in reservations. And what did they use to transport around? Horses. So we're talking about almost 150 years, and we're still using horses to oppress the voices of the people. This has cost us $10 million, money that we can use towards housing. I happened to be yesterday at the launch of the city budget, and in my understanding is that Trudeau is now coming with $250 million. So Toronto taxpayers are going to be asked to pay 6% more of 10.5% of the current proposed tax for 2024 for property taxes. So why don't we unload this unnecessary budget item on the police services board and pass it on to the crisis community service? Yesterday, I was shocked to know that they only are going to be funding $90 million for the implementation of the community crisis service. That is a nickel in the bucket. That is not going to be enough to cover citywide service. And this is the goal of the community crisis service, to divert calls of emergency towards people who can handle people who are in crisis. So again, I would request the city, the board members at this committee, councilors here present, to make a motion that we can need to defund the horses once and for all, because it has caused really harm to our people. Enough is enough. Don't paint the picture that the horses are just a photo op to take pictures with. That's a shame. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. Subject to any questions, may I have a motion to receive item number 5, please, to approve? Councillor Burnside, seconder Vice Chair Kostakis. Thank you. Mistake. I was going out of order on item number 3 and speaking about the written deputations, and I missed Derek. Do you still want to speak on item number 3? My apologies. Thank you, Derek.
Like I said earlier, tone down these meetings. I just want to point out, compared to there was a Board of Health meeting, Deputy Mayor Morley might recall, I thought Councillor Moyes had skipped me over. And I didn't want to create a scene. I just simply said, hey, point of order, I think I'm on the list. And just the way he looked down at me from his chair saying, oh, that's not a point of order. And it's just kind of like, that's a great example of just the way they just, Councillor Burnside's laughing. But that's the way the public are treated down at those meetings compared to now. And I just want, again, thank you for doing your part to just not looking down your nose at us, the great unwashed, even though, we pay for all this. And
Thank you.
while I think about it, and while he's here, I actually mentioned Desmond Cole at the Service Excellence Committee that they started up at the City of Toronto. And I pointed out to Councillor Holiday that at the end of last winter, I bumped into somebody out there that has heard me speak at these meetings before from the TPS, and they asked me not to mention who they were. But they told me, he said, I can tell you this much. Ever since what happened to Desmond here, talking about DeFonte Miller on a parking ticket item, the Toronto Police have no interest whatsoever in forcibly removing a member of the public who's not sticking to the topic, and because of the public relations disaster that resulted from that. So again, for people that don't know, that hasn't happened since, I don't think. So again, kudos to you guys changing the way members of the public were treated coming here. So probably speak to the topic. So, I spent...
About to prompt you. Any comments on the AI policy?
I spend way too much time on Canley. So I came across this since the last meeting. This is from Jensen versus Stemmer, 2007, where the Court of Appeal of Manitoba were talking about policy and procedures. The direction to officers and members of the RCMP to observe and comply with the manuals does not confer on them the force of law. It is a notice to employees, right? That's what procedures are, because you go down to the City of Toronto and they love to try and tell me every once in a while, you have to obey our Chapter 27 council procedures. It is a notice to employees that they are expected to follow the procedures applicable to them. Such procedures may have the force of law if they are contained in statutes or regulations or commissioners' standing orders, but a direction to follow procedures of itself does not give the procedures the force of law. So in this report, it mentions definitions. For the purpose of this policy, the following definitions will apply. Biometrics, data on the measurements of physical and behavioral features of individuals, example, facial features, voice, gait, that could be used to identify the individual. Now, the word individual is mentioned 18 times in this report, and there's a maxim of law that says the application is the life of a rule. And I've mentioned here before that Sergeant Eustace at 53 Division once agreed with me that it would be fraud to go around charging people with laws that didn't actually apply to them. So I just want to touch on where individual is mentioned in law. In the Legislation Act, individual means a natural person. I actually had a conversation with municipal lawyer George Rusteyes once about the paper he wrote called the Entering the Magical World of the Natural Person. And the City of Toronto versus CUPE 2003, the Supreme Court of Canada said, we emphasize first that the rule of law provides that the law is supreme over the acts of both government and private persons. Put another way, the relationship between the state and the individual must be regulated by law. At its most basic level, the rule of law vouchsafes to the citizens and residents of the country a stable, predictable, and ordered society in which to conduct their affairs. And as Jim Hart once told me when I pointed out to him the significance of taking an oath of office, holding the Bible, that ends in "So help me God," he was like, oh yeah, that's really powerful stuff. I just want to mention that in Romans 2:11, it says, for there is no respect of persons with God. In James 2:9, but if ye have respect to persons, ye commit sin and are convinced of the law as transgressors. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comment. Thank you. So having that we already approved item number 3, we will move ahead to item number 7, and that is a report from Dr. Kanengisser as it relates to City Council decision on the Infrastructure Environmental Committee, updates on Vision Zero. Miguel, I believe you had a deputation.
What a nice way to welcome 2024 than speaking again another item on the agenda. Thank you. So, Councilor McKelvey, the other night was on CP24 announcing a great revenue strategy for the City of Toronto, more cameras, speeding cameras. I totally agree. We should have cameras to catch those who are, breaking the law, especially in the school areas where seniors live. Anyway, that is a priority of the City of Toronto. I will not speak against it. However, I feel the need to say this. She also, Councilor McKelvey stated that they need to find the funds, the money. So I wonder where, since this item is at the agenda, I wonder if there is any motivation for city councilors to ask the service, how can we find efficiencies in the services so that we can buy those cameras? Because, we're talking about efficiencies. And City Hall is, budget. Yesterday, as I said, I was there. And everybody's shocked, 10%, 10.5%, they're losing their minds. Some city councilors. In addition to that, 6% if Justin Trudeau doesn't come to the table with cash. So we have a big trouble, but who knows? At the end of the day, Mr. Trudeau will come and rescue the city as always. He's a superhero. Justin Trudeau. Or Doug Ford, thank you for giving us some cash money. So that's also good. In order to achieve the Vision Zero policy of the city, the discussion last year at City Council is that they were wondering if we can hire more traffic wardens so that they can do the job of watching intersections, making sure that traffic flow appears to be better with their presence. I support that because I went to Lima, Peru, where I was born about 4 years ago, and we use a lot of traffic wardens, and because traffic in South America is freaking crazy, and those traffic wardens do a fantastic job, and these are mostly moms, people who are in low poverty, and this is the same policy, philosophy we should apply in Toronto to give meaningful jobs to people that live in poverty, who are eternally living on an Ontario work check, on an DSP check, on a pension plan check. Let's move people out of poverty. Let's give them that training so that they can be traffic wardens and have, improve their lives. Basically, that's all we want. Instead of high-paying, police officers, members of the police union who make $100,000 a year, we can do for less. $45,000, $50,000 doesn't sound bad, right? So let's help people. Thank you.
Thank you. Were there any questions or comments?
Well, I do have one comment.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor Burnside.
I just want to clarify that traffic wardens, the top paid traffic warden makes $84,000 a year. I think that's germane to the discussion.
Could you speak into the mic? Sorry, because I can hear you, but...
So I just wanted to make a point of clarification. The highest paid traffic warden, which would be in line with the first class police constable, he or she makes $84,000 a year, not $42,000. So it's germane to the discussion of whether we use traffic wardens or police officers for traffic functions. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, Councillor Burnside. May I have a motion to approve item number 7? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Morley and Councillor Chang. Thank you. Moving on to item number 8, the report from Dr. Kanengisser as it relates to our City Council decisions, MM 12.28, the hate speech and other activities. We do have some deputants, and the first person is Tammy Baruch. She's not? All right. It appears that Ms. Baruch is not here, and so are there any, questions on this particular item? Seeing none, I would ask for a motion to receive this item. Board Member Spencer, and also, I believe it was it Deputy Mayor? Oh, no, it was Councillor Chang. Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to our final item, which are the Chief Administrative Investigative Reports. We have a series of deputations on various reports from 9.1 to 9.9. And our first is Mr. Langenfeld.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I'd like to thank the Chief and CAO Dhaliwal and CTO Stairs for their responses to the last point. Also to the Chief on his first presentation and this issue of policing of the protests in the city. I was going to applaud the service on being very unbiased in their application and enforcement of everything. I have a bit of a concern about the police apparently telling protesters where is and isn't acceptable to protest on public property. I assume someone will be taking the city to the courts on that. But on this item here of 9.1, so this is, let me just get it. Okay. A complainant had a large knife in a park across the street from 12 Division, and so somebody saw the knife and went to 12th Division and reported it on February 27th here. So my first point on this is the reference to this is a large concealed or a large knife concealed in a sheath on a belt. And I submit to you that as soon as a knife is in a sheath on a belt, it's concealed. So I think calling it a concealed weapon or a concealed knife is basically inflammatory, and so I don't even think that should be in the report here. Moving on, this was February 27th last year at 8:01 in the morning, and the officers responding told the person to lay on the ground. And I think we can all imagine back in 2023 on February 27th, less than a year ago, it was below zero on at that time of the morning on February 27th, and it had in fact snowed 2 days earlier. So the idea that somebody's going to be ordered to lie on the ground at that time of the morning is, I think, just ridiculous. That is the first response from officers. And that, in fact, as that direction was given, 2 officers drew their CEWs at the same time as a third officer pointed their service revolver at the individual. So, or I guess it's not a revolver, but regardless, so basically you've got somebody in the middle of February, freezing cold, being told again to the complainant did not comply to lay on the ground and instead started walking backwards into an empty park. And at this point, the officers started following him, continuing to issue orders to lay on the ground. Eventually, first one officer, then the second officer discharged their CEWs at this person. And then finally, the officers ordered the complainant to drop the knife. So we have, in fact, the reality here was they told somebody in the middle of February to lay on the ground, lay on the ground, lay on the ground, and then put down the knife. I think that's completely backwards training here. Had the instructions to start with been a little calmer, I assume, and the instruction been to loosen the belt and remove the sheath and drop it to the ground without removing it from the sheath, that in fact there wouldn't have been an issue here, and that it's a problem with the overall training of officers, where we have people being instructed to lay on the ground in the middle of February, 2 days after snowstorm. So odds are they're lying down in slush. I can only assume that this guy was a homeless guy. So after spending the night outside in below zero temperature, he now has 3 people pointing weapons at him, telling him to lie down in the slush on the ground. Even if he's not found guilty of a crime at the end of all this, maybe it was his mistake, having come here from somewhere else, that he was carrying around. I'm guessing this was one of those situations of a knife that Canadian Tire was apparently selling machetes and things like that. And so it was actually at the end of this that the complainant actually took the knife out of the sheath. Prior to that, the whole start of this, he wasn't waving this knife around. And so I think we need to look at our whole training of officers, how they actually deal with and respond to these situations from the beginning. I'm glad to see the net result was charges against the officers who shot, but that is certainly an issue here. So thank you. I believe my time's up.
Thank you for your comments, and no doubt many of your considerations will be, the focus of discussion in the court. So thank you. Any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Langenfeld. The next deputant is Council, Mr. David Shellnut.
Our firm represents Mr. Devon Fallon in a victims advocacy role at this point, helping him along with the SIU in the criminal proceedings. By chance, Desmond Cole, who's been helping us support Mr. Fallon, came across the agenda for today's meeting and drew my attention to item 911 in the Chief's report. Without learning about this, the item on consent may likely have been moved on without any meaningful discussion. We're here today because we believe discussion's warranted. Make no mistake, this is a serious incident, one where miraculously Mr. Fallon escaped death. TPS could, but for chance and God's good grace, be dealing with a murder charge of one of their officers. Thankfully, Mr. Fallon survived PC Andrew Davis's multiple shots. As noted in the Chief's report on this incident, a lot went wrong. PC Davis is charged criminally. He and another officer potentially face disciplinary hearings. We're pleased that there has been a proactive assessment by TPS here. However, the shooting of Mr. Fallon demonstrates a complete failure to de-escalate an interaction with a member of the public. Instead, we see how violence was used to escalate a non-threatening situation to the point of serious injury and near death. The need to prevent situations like this from happening should be of critical importance to the board and us all. What happened? Mr. Fallon was alone in the morning in a parking lot next to a parkette. He had a knife he used for cooking in his belt. He was without housing at the time. TPS officers arrived on scene. The first act was to demand that he get down on the ground while simultaneously drawing lethal and non-lethal weapons at him. A man they admitted seemed agitated. Mr. Fallon, his knife still on his belt, having done nothing wrong, walked backwards from the officers, we presume to safety. In response to him backing away, two officers attempted to use their tasers on him. Mr. Fallon continued to walk away from police. Sadly, at this point, we learned from the report that he took his knife out and began to self-harm. I pause here to consider the terror and distress that Mr. Fallon must have been experiencing to do that. This was a critical moment. Instead of intervening to help Mr. Fallon, PC Davis shot him repeatedly. The likelihood that Mr. Fallon would be killed was high. This is a situation that escalated needlessly. It demonstrates the need for us all to focus considerable efforts in developing and investing in more appropriate non-police emergency responses. It would be appropriate for the board to address this. Certainly, TPS does not want to put officers into situations they're not equipped for. Detasking responses to mental health crisis would no doubt come as a relief to many officers and allow TPS to focus on incidents they're better positioned to handle. We'd ask the following questions of the board, given our quick review of this report. Will the board be reaching out, or TPS reaching out to Mr. Fallon to contribute? Has the board viewed the body camera footage? We're only here because there is body camera footage, I submit. Is this not a case in which, to understand the gravity of this situation, the board needs to see firsthand what happened? We cannot continue to dehumanize these interactions, and we cannot ignore the realities of state violence. We have budgeted for BWCs for accountability. I submit that would include accountability to the board, to council, and to the general public, of course, in a thoughtful and compassionate manner. I would also, as a real point of clarity, like some clarity on paragraph 1 of the report, of the conclusion at page 5. What does it mean that policies and procedures associated with this firearm discharge and resulting injuries to the complainant were lawful? I found the wording a bit confusing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? And I appreciate your comments, Mr. Shelnut, and the board does take it seriously, and we will be apprised and keeping up to date with not only the charges, but ultimately whether or not they're possible misconduct. So thank you. Yes.
Sorry, there she goes. I was hoping we could give PC Code an opportunity to speak to some of the questions that the deputant had a moment ago. As I understand, they're available for responses.
Before the chorus.
Yeah. I was just going to make comment before Staff Superintendent Code addressed the question as well, with respect to Mr. Shelnut talking about the detasking, and certainly we are and have been for some time very committed to alternative service delivery, to supporting the community-based crisis services as well, through Gerstein, the expansion of TCCS as well. We're not there yet. It's certainly not a lift and shift. And just a reminder that we have approximately 35,000 person in crisis calls a year, of which only less than 1% actually have been found suitable to transfer, and we are certainly continuing to work with partners and looking at consent as well, with our legal and city legal and whatnot, to improve on those referrals away from policing.
Hello, good morning. My name is Peter Cote. I haven't spoken regularly at this meeting, so it's important to introduce myself. I'm the Staff Superintendent at Professionalism and Accountability, and one of the units that's within my purview is the Professional Standards Investigations Unit, and also the Special Investigations Unit Liaison Team, which is responsible for the report today that's been spoken to. There are 3 questions that I understand Council Shelnut has asked. I certainly can answer, I'll speak to all of them. I can certainly answer one of them. I'm very much in agreement with some of the comments that you've made just about the seriousness of this event and how this is indeed a tragic event. The questions that you've asked here do speak to a criminal case that is currently before the courts. So we are at a bit of a, I'd say, position where we find ourselves not able to comment on items that could then become evidence and will become evidence later on in a criminal proceeding. So I do have that as a bit of a caveat in relation to responses. But one of your questions, or the three questions that I've seen, and by all means, please let me know if I've somehow misinterpreted them, is will the board reach out to Mr. Fallon, and I'll let the board be able to address that. Has the board reviewed the body-worn camera? I'm not aware if they have or not, but I can say that this event was captured in multiple locations by body-worn camera and also in-car camera. And all of those videos were turned over to the Special Investigations Unit, and I'd suggest very much assisted them with their investigation, and would now be in the hands, in the possession of the Crown Attorney's Office at the Ministry of the Attorney General, which would be the prosecuting agency that is prosecuting our officer currently facing criminal charges. The last part is, what does the policy mean in relation to firearms? And I see it on page 5, and thank you for the reference, Council, where it says that there was a determination that the TPS policies and procedures associated with this firearm discharge and resulting injuries to the complainant were lawful. Part of this process that we are compelled to do, but would do, is to first of all take a look at every event in relation to policies and procedures that exist with the Toronto Police Service and make sure that they are lawful with the governance of our country, of our province, and then also lawful in relation to our responsibilities under the PSA. Our procedures are lawful. That's what that means. And I think it goes further, that's the first point of context here, because we've actually found or made a finding that our officers have not complied with what we are saying are lawful procedures. And so I hope that answers that question or clarifies what that point means within that report. Thank you, Council. Thank you very much.
That clarify? You had a further question?
Yep, just on the piece around contact with Mr. Fallon, whether there's been an opportunity to connect them with victim services, or whether the board will be able to make any kind of a reach out.
I can't answer that because the immediate referral would have come through TPS.
I can certainly just speak to that, in that there is some, not jurisdiction issues, but in relation to who actually has carriage of certain cases. And so in this case, Special Investigations Unit are the lead investigating agency. That doesn't only mean they are the ones investigating a criminal or alleged criminal offense, but they would also take on all aspects of victim management, referral to services, and so on. Council Shelnut, I think, is actually assisting in that by representing the complainant in this matter. But for the board to reach out to a complainant in this matter, I'd suggest may not be in the best keeping of what would then proceed further down the line, because it's actually one of the board's employees, an officer, that is currently criminally charged.
That makes great sense. And just for my own information, is the SIU, do they have the capacity to connect with victim services as they see fit?
Yeah, they do.
So not working with the SIU, this is a bit speculative, but it's also based on the experience that I've had with the SIU over a number of years, and the answer is absolutely yes.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Chief? Thank you so much. Next deputant is Zoe Newman. I believe Ms. Newman is here.
Hello. I am here speaking on behalf of Jews Say No to Genocide. We are a coalition of 4 Jewish organizations: Independent Jewish Voices Toronto, If Not Now Toronto, the Jewish Faculty Network, and the Winchevsky Center and the United Jewish People's Order. Our coalition also includes Jewish members of Showing Up for Racial Justice Toronto and World Beyond War Toronto. We are here to speak to the profound injustice of what TPS officers did to Devon Fowlin on February 27, 2023. The police response, tasering and shooting Devon and then handcuffing him after he'd been shot, was not only completely unjustified, it was inhuman and it was cruel. The TPS officers' actions on February 27 speak to how dehumanized Devon was in their eyes and how unable they were to see him as deserving of basic respect and dignity. You may be wondering what a group called Jews Say No to Genocide is doing here to speak to the egregious levels of force that TPS officers used against Devon Fowlin. While any person should be concerned about such police violence, to date, most of our actions as Jews Say No to Genocide have been in solidarity with Palestinians seeking relief from the 17-year siege of Gaza and calling for a ceasefire to end the unprecedented violence Israel is committing against Palestinians. We have been speaking out as Jews Say No to Genocide because we want it to be known that the bombs being rained down on Palestinians cannot be dropped in our name or in the name of Jewish safety. And we are deputing today to decry that same misguided logic that is being used here at home to imagine that a black man walking his dog in an empty park is so dangerous that aggressive police action is warranted. We know that Jewish people's safety is enhanced by the elimination of racism and oppression, not the intensification of dehumanization, surveillance, and policing of other groups. We understand anti-Semitism as deeply rooted in the systems of white supremacy and racial capitalism that rely on the subjugation and exploitation of Black, Indigenous, and racialized peoples in service of advancing corporate interests, profit, and Western power. Here in Toronto, there has been significant discussion at municipal, provincial, and federal levels of the need to eliminate anti-Semitism and other forms of bigotry and discrimination. All levels of government have pledged support for increasing police powers to address rising incidents of reported hate crimes, with an emphasis on supposedly protecting Jewish communities. Meanwhile, Islamophobic, anti-Indigenous, and anti-Black hate crimes are also occurring at distressing rates, even though we know those communities are less likely to report such occurrences due to the disproportionate surveillance, profiling, and violence they face from police forces and border agencies. As Jews Say No to Genocide, we do not hold the value of Jewish safety, comfort, and freedom over the rights of other oppressed communities. We are not made safe when Black and Indigenous Torontonians are met with police dehumanization, suspicion, and violence. This logic underlies and seeks to justify increases in the TPS budget, and we reject it. What was done to Devon is yet another example of why we must defund and abolish police and redirect their resources to our communities. What was done to Devon is yet another example of TPS officers escalating violence and danger rather than ensuring safety to individuals and communities. The TPS themselves concluded that Mr. Fowlin posed no danger to them or to the public on February 27, and yet he now lives with a physical disability and presumably trauma due to the actions of the TPS. Devon had been living out of his car after losing his job, at a time when so many people in this city are experiencing homelessness or precarious housing situations. Funding priorities need to be reassessed. Increasing budgets for the police service directs funds away from long-term sustainable solutions like investing in shelter, social services, and income supports. As a coalition seeking justice and respect for human rights in Israel-Palestine, we must also work to ensure these values are upheld here at home. As Jews Say No to Genocide, we stand in solidarity with Devon Fowlin and his family and loved ones, and all the racialized and marginalized people criminalized, harmed, and killed by the TPS. Defund, disarm, dismantle, abolish.
Thank you. Any questions? The next deputant is Suzanne Schusch, and I believe Ms. Schusch will be appearing virtually. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Hi, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Suzanne Shush. I'm a Black and Indigenous mother and physician living, working, and raising 3 sons in the downtown core of Toronto. As a physician, I continue to be astounded to see how our mayor and our decision makers continue to spend limited public funds on our increasing police budget. As a physician, I see every day that the safest communities are not those who are the most policed. They are the communities with the most resources. Poverty, homelessness, mental and physical illness are truly our greatest concerns in public safety. As a physician, I see the devastating impact of chronic underfunding on social services every day, and I cannot understand the logic in funding the police over social services. As we've said before, we cannot police our way to well-being, and I cannot support a relentless hoarding of resources by the Toronto Police Services. We have seen that increasing police budgets are associated with increased harm to Black and Indigenous people. This is another example of the extent of harm that police interactions pose for our communities. The harm inflicted on Indigenous and Black communities and people by police continues to be very real. And this is a fact that is clearly acknowledged by the Toronto Police Services. Systemic racism in policing is well documented. We know Black and Indigenous people are more likely to be victims of violent crime and more likely to be harmed by the police. We know that Indigenous women face astonishing rates of violence, making up 2% of our population and 25% of women murdered. In Toronto, we know that Black people are 20 times more likely to be fatally shot by the police. This is one example of that shooting. Black and Indigenous people are significantly overrepresented in prisons, and this is a trend that our own correctional investigator of Canada, Dr. Zinger, has called a disturbing and entrenched imbalance. In this discussion, while we discussed Devon Fowler, we cannot forget the many police-involved maimings and deaths of unarmed Black and Indigenous people in our city. These are people who have not been given a choice but to involve the police when they need help, given that all alternative mental health and socioeconomic resources have been devastatingly underfunded and under-resourced by decision makers. Increasing the police budget does not keep these vulnerable groups safe, and using the police as crisis response absolutely is not keeping these people safe. The TPS has spent an astounding amount of public funds on armor, weapons, drones, and military equipment, and they continue to use this equipment disproportionately and unnecessarily on Black and Indigenous people and communities. In increasing our police budget, we are choosing a path that has no basis in evidence that I can find over caring for our communities. We can put resources towards preventing a crisis, caring for our environment, resourcing public transportation, supporting our children by funding schools, libraries, childcare, and physical activities, and critically addressing our housing and homeless crisis and mitigating poverty for the many thousands of people and families in dire straits. Every dollar the TPS takes is a dollar drained from our communities, our social supports, and our families. This is one of the largest lines in our city's budget, and this money is hoarded at the expense of resources that keep communities safe and prevent crisis. As community resources to ensure health and well-being are drained, the police become our de facto institution appointed to address all health and social issues they are not trained or designed for, and in fact, they have proven themselves dangerous for. The police mandate grows inappropriately every year. The safest communities are not the communities that are most policed. They are the communities that are the most empowered and well-resourced. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shush. Are any questions or comments? Morley is going to either ask you a question or make a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I just want to acknowledge, the courage it takes to come before a body like ours with, the important speaking your truth to us. And I really appreciate yourself, the deputy before you, and all those who've come here today for taking the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And our last speaker, Desmond Cole. I believe Mr. Cole's here in person.
members of the board, Black people continue to be harmed and killed by the police while you continue sitting here pushing paper, calmly administrating our suffering. How do you manage all the pain and death that you oversee? The police have released a report acknowledging the misconduct, unnecessary force, and failures of de-escalation of officers who confronted and shot Devon Fallon almost a year ago. The police say Constable Andrew Davis, who is facing criminal charges now, shot Devon, quote, when there was no risk of bodily harm or death to any officer or member of the public, unquote. Some would call this report a success, the system working as it should. But it is not a success because the police should never have confronted and shot Devon in the first place. And although the police are distancing themselves from this particularly heinous act, they offer no claims it won't happen again, and again, and again, as we know it will. You give them body cameras, but the cameras just capture the violence, they don't prevent it. You give them tasers, but then they say the tasers don't work, so they have to use their firearms as they did to Devon. You give them training about anti-Black racism, and then we see a report weeks ago from the Ontario Human Rights Commission which says that the racism continues. We are at an impasse. We all know policing is designed to produce this suffering, but the board pretends it will be different next time, or maybe the next time, or maybe the next time after that. I saw Devon a couple of nights ago and I told him about this report. I had to tell him because this board doesn't communicate with the survivors of police violence. You don't notify people when important decisions about their lives are being discussed here. You are so disconnected from the violence that you oversee. I am honored to call Devon my friend. I know he's watching. We love you, Devon. A year after the police shot him, almost a year, he is struggling to access disability and to stabilize his life. He cannot work. He has to live with the aftermath of the Toronto Police's violence. This city should be making sure that Devon has everything he needs while he awaits accountability. But you're not even in contact with him. Are you prepared to do anything for Devon? Or will you just sit here, let these words wash over you and move on? Every month this board meets, and every month you receive a group of reports about serious injuries and deaths your police are responsible for. You board members rarely discuss these events individually. Instead, as you've done today, you put them on a so-called consent agenda. You vote on them at the end of the meeting, and then you go home. You are only forced to engage more deeply with the routine carnage that your police cause when we, the people of Toronto, come here to single out one or more of these agenda items and speak to them ourselves. The police have asked for $20 million more for the upcoming year, and you have already approved it. But for Devon and for all those you harm, you offer nothing. You reward the institution that harms and kills us, and you have no answers for change. The futility of this Toronto Police Services Board is the best argument to disarm, dismantle, defund, and ultimately abolish the police. We need to redistribute the resources of policing to people like Devon and rebuild what you have all helped to destroy. Because I have a minute left, I want to say one more thing. About the consent agenda. I encourage people who are watching this meeting, open up that agenda. It's not just about shooting somebody and them almost dying that brings us here. Drug busts gone wrong. Like police chasing down people who they say have a box cutter and assaulting them. Look at the regularity. It's not just about people like Devon. And by the way, SIU's threshold for serious injury is extremely high. So if they don't break a bone, if they don't take off a limb, it's not coming to this board. You don't hear about it. The vast majority of the violence against our communities is not discussed here. It's not being captured by what you guys are all talking about, or in these cases, not talking about. So on behalf of the No Pride in Policing Committee, we will continue our struggle to defund the police. We invite the public to support Devon Fowlin because no one here is going to do so. You can look at my social media. We have a GoFundMe for Devon. We encourage the public to do what this board won't. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Was there any questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Cole. I believe we've covered all the agenda items, but just before Lisa found. What? Sorry. I guess I'm still traumatized by the December meeting, 10.5 hours, and I apologize. We need a motion to receive items 9.1 to 9.9, please. Yes, I for questions.
Thank you. Just on the previous deputation, I'm wondering, is there an opportunity to bridge Devon to a focus table to what kind of like a wraparound support? Is that, I know we don't have jurisdiction to do that, but is there someone in the service that could help connect him to something like that?
The service is now the subject of oversight, as I believe Superintendent Code explained by the SIU, and therefore, and the charges before the court, the board doesn't have jurisdiction to either interfere in this ongoing process to determine what, if any, wrongdoing there is, and then the subsequent police conduct. At a later date, perhaps if when this is all said and done, the board may have discussions as it relates to when we're given updates as to what, if any. But at the present time, and please correct me, but I don't believe we have jurisdiction to deal with this gentleman.
I can add just a couple of really quick comments. And Chair, you're absolutely right. While the matter is a criminal matter and before the criminal courts, the SIU would have that jurisdiction and would have those services available for this gentleman. I can tell you that currently our tribunal matters would be held down until the completion of those criminal matters. When those criminal matters are completed, that would then trigger the commencement of our tribunal matters, at which point we would take on that responsibility as well to ensure that A, there is proper notification, there's proper connection, there's proper awareness of when tribunal matters will proceed so that this member of the public of our communities can attend. But then also we would also trigger into services being offered and available to that member as well.
And what would be the timeline of that?
That's going to be dependent on a criminal matter.
Okay. I just also wanted to ask, we've talked about a challenge in de-escalation, and is there any data on the number of incidences where, is there a pattern that has emerged about, I know that we have a principle of de-escalation and we have a lot of training, but in difficult situations, maybe not every officer is able to tap into that training instinctively. So I'm just wondering, I know we've moved in a direction to highlight de-escalation and to train it, but is there also then data to say like what has been the impact of that shift, and can we see results from our emphasis, or is there still a gap that needs to be addressed in how we strengthen our focus on de-escalation?
I want to make sure I understand the question. Is the question on how do we understand the impact of our training, or how often they get training? Training of de-escalation is a regular part of our officers' yearly in-service training. It is something that is very much front and center in the training our officers get every year as part of their in-service training.
So the question is more, are we monitoring the impact of our training? Is it resulting in increase of de-escalation, or is there still a gap that is happening? to, yeah.
Sorry, Councillor, I'm trying to find the data that we've been running. We have actually looked at this recently, and we're seeing, so there's de-escalation training, there's also the introduction of the CEWs, and what's the impact of that. We are seeing a marked decrease over a longer time frame of shootings. It is chunky data, so you'll have 3 1 year, 5 the next, so you have to look out on a long trend, but there's a definite a trend to reduced shootings, taser use over the long time frame. So my time frame I think we were looking at was 10 years. And that's data provided by Staff Superintendent's Codes team. So we are seeing positives. Obviously, this incident is a failure in the training and the de-escalation, and that's why it's before us. And we're going to look at further analysis and methods around this. This is also part of the focus area for the race-based data analysis. So we did look at use of force. We're now looking at arrests and apprehensions and looking at racial bias in that data set. We are going to renew the analysis of use of force for the years intervening since the last time we did it. And then we're also going to, at some point, return to that pending how the CAP, the Community Advisory Panel on Race-Based Data, directs myself and the analysts.
So there will be further analysis available to talk about use of force and de-escalation and the impact it's having in terms of what's happening on the field.
Yes, and I think right now we don't measure de-escalation per se.
Mm-hmm.
It's a so we don't have a check mark or I de-escalated this situation because it's very fluid and hard to measure that. So we're looking at the outcomes. And are we having a positive impact on the outcomes in terms of the amount of use of force and injury and death, obviously, to subjects.
Okay, thank you.
Black people are overrepresented in every use of force category over 30 years. That's the OHRC's data. Every category, arrests, detentions, strip searches, every category. You can say it's going down, but the proportions of us being harmed doesn't change.
Yeah, I'd ask you, Mr. Cole, to, you've had your opportunity to speak and to allow, because we're now asking both the command team and board council members, and we're discussing this topic, so I'd ask you just to please hold your comments. Vice Chair Kostakis, you had a question? And then Deputy Mayor Morley.
I just wanted to add to Councillor Cheng's comments, her first, a comment that I would be hopeful and would believe that if Victim Services is involved as well, that the gentleman is not sitting there not getting any form of supports, and that his advocates and his friends and family, there are supports that should be in place, I would hope, with the social services and all the other partners that are out there through the hospital as well, the social workers within the system that would be supporting him prior to this situation, the legal part of it completing. Whereas if we can't reach out as a board, that there are other services in place and other social service agencies that would be supporting him in his time of need, and his advocates would be also supporting that effort.
Deputy Mayor Morley, you had another comment or question?
Co-chair took sort of the sentiment out of my mouth. I think it's really important for us to ensure that in the interim, before it is sort of back under acceptable, opportunity for us to weigh in, that victims of crime, as we do across the city, whether, it's an unfortunate situation and a failure on our behalf, as we've seen here, or otherwise, are immediately supported. And so I look forward to some internal discussion with board members, with our folks, Staff Sergeant and other members of command, to see how we may be able to improve policy and ensure that there's processes and procedures in place to make that happen. And I just want to really, on sort of a personal note, I think it's important to note that our systems only improve with our continued efforts and our engagement and our, hopeful, optimistic approach to systems improvements. And again, really want to appreciate and thank the members of the public who joined us here on this important topic. It's important for us to take it, of course, very seriously, to learn from this and to continue to improve. Our institutions, like us as humans, we're not perfect, but we can always strive to do better, and that's what we're here to do. So thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Chair, can I just offer a little bit of clarity? So the SIU does have an affected persons program, so it helps with that victim and witness support immediately following an event, but also through the court process, through victim impact statements and whatnot as well. So it sort of bridges that gap where we can't offer our own services.
Thank you, Deputy Pogue. Any more questions or comments as it relate to item 9? Thank you. Just before I ask for, may I have a motion to receive, please? Councillor Chang and then Vice Chair Kostakis. All in favor? Thank you. At the very beginning, Vice Chair Kostakis brought me, somebody has lost their glasses, so if there's somebody who came, a member of the public, and again, I echo what all the councillors and everyone else's comments. Thank you for coming. We do take all your comments very seriously, but they are here if somebody has misplaced them. Yes, Deputy Mayor.
I think we're coming up on adjournment, if I'm not mistaken, but I did just want to really quickly do a special thank you to my local division at 22. I had the opportunity to go on a ride along and spend the evening and meet and tour and spend some time. A special shout out to Sergeant Antoine, who took me around in their car, and for the warm welcome for our officers. But just as a member of the board, it was incredibly educational for me to see what it is a day in the life of the officers on the front lines, what the call volumes are looking like, the types of occurrences and the nature and that things of the like. So I just want a special shout out to 22 Division, which I learned is one of the top 4 busiest divisions in the city. And my thanks to the incredible team there doing important work keeping our community safe.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Deputy Mayor Morley, and I'm sure it was an eye-opener for someone who had not worked in the business. I'm sorry, Miguel. Can I just? I'll just look again. I thought he did.
Chair, that's the item that was held down with. Is that the Mobile Crisis Intervention Team? MOU?
No.
No.
Just a moment, Miguel. I actually don't have your name on item 8, but would you like to speak now before we adjourn? I'm happy to hear what you have to say. Yes, please come forward.
I just want to acknowledge that Chris Langenfield has experienced the same problem last month with the registration process for deputations. So thank you for allowing me to speak on this important item. I hear loud and clear Chief Myron, and I have some couple of questions for him. But before that, I want to brought to you an attention to what happened on Saturday, this past week at the 401 and Avenue Road. We are all times we are peaceful protesters, and before that, I wanted to acknowledge that I have been a regular activist at this board since the year 2010, and I also have been a protester as well in the city of Toronto streets in the year 2010. So what happened is that apparently, an officer brought some coffee to the people who were on the bridge. Well, thank you to lawyer Karima Saad for putting this video on Instagram, and it resulted on a response from Chair Myron. But besides that incident, there was also, they call it the Coffee Gate incident. So there is another incident that perhaps has been, there was an oversight. There is also the case of the Washroom Gate. You see, under the Charter of Human Rights, we have something called making accommodations as to undue hardship to the institution. So if you are going to kettle us and prohibit us from moving around and exercise our freedom and rights to walk on the street, I was told that when I asked an officer, I wanted to go and use the washroom, and they say, yes, go ahead, but guess what? You're not going to come back. You're going to stay out. I say, what? I go to the board of the police services, and I use the washroom many times because I happen to have diabetes. And as a diabetic person, I need to go pee several times. So when the officer tried to stop me from using the washroom, this is something that you have to think ahead. If you're going to be blocking streets, please put portable washrooms so that we, the people, the disabled people, because you care, and you said that you're going to uphold the Human Rights Code, provide us with portable washrooms so that we can relieve ourselves if you're going to kettle us. I mean, this sounds ridiculous, but this is what really happened. We were not allowed freedom of transit. We were told you can't come back. So this is my first point I want to make, and I want to thank Karima Saad, the lawyer, for putting out this video on my interaction with Toronto Police. I want to also ask the chief, do not penalize or discipline the officers who brought the coffee to us, because you guys blocked the roads. We didn't block the roads. It was you who blocked the roads. And plus, you had TTC buses who are there burning gas. You have extreme police forces. I'm talking about Project Resolute that is costing Toronto taxpayers over $21 million. I wanted to Chief Morgan had the opportunity to ask Justin Trudeau yesterday, why don't you fund us? Why do we have to go and ask City Council for more money all the time? Those $24 million that you're requesting in 2024 is not 24. It's going to be close to $50 billion because as a result of the negotiation with the union. So why is so impossible for you to provide accommodations for people who are exercising their rights and freedoms? I wanted to ask you. The second question is, are you going to forbid us from protesting at other bridges? I understand that today you have said anybody going to the bridge of 401 Avenue Road will be arrested. Fine. But remember, there are a lot of children, there are a lot of women and seniors attending other bridges. Do you have the money to do that? Do you have the money to stop up freedom of expression and freedom of speech? I want to know that if you have the money to pay for all that. And I want to know why you send police officers at 100 River Street on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. when we're conducting business at Regent Park, and you officers came to distract us. About 8 police officers came to distract our meeting that we're having about the community benefits that we're trying to implement for phases 4 and 5. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe we already approved item 8. So at this point, may I have a motion to adjourn, please? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Morley, second by Board Member Spencer. Thank you. And the next meeting is, I believe, March 18th. We got them. Yeah. Thank you.